Today, our guest is Dan Spatz. He is with the City of the Dalles and also a part of our urban renewal. So he will be giving us some updates and we'll get to that. But first, let's go around the room and say who you are, your organization, and if you promise to keep it short, what's happening. Let's start with Sue. Let's start with you today.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Good to see you all. Sue Davis, Columbia Gorge Community College Foundation and Office of Advancement. And let's see, the thing that I would note about what we're up to today is we are awarding scholarships today. So our committee has done all of the reviewing and we're meeting today to recommend the students who will get funded for scholarships for next academic year. So kind of a banner day, super fun to be able to do that. So we're giving out about $170,000 for next year's scholarships.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Love it. Kudos. We got to celebrate those things. That's awesome. Please send me that information so that we can celebrate that. Or if you want to wait until who's chosen, we can do one story and put that on the Chamber's new blog.
Awesome. Love it.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Thanks, Lisa.
You bet. All right, Mr. Brian Tuck.
Brian Tuck, president of the Association of Retired People here in the Dalles.
It's a tough job, isn't it?
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah. All right. Good morning, sir. Corliss.
Good morning, everyone. No updates, but maybe the library update. Summer reading is kicked off. The other day they had the kickoff party at the library and the counter said over 1,000 people.
Wow.
So there were a lot of kids there, let me tell you. It was crawling in and out of the building. But it's fun, and so we got kids reading, and that's the important thing.
It is. That's so cool.
On the other front, I'm getting ready for a trip, and I'm trying to clean out my refrigerator. That's the last thing to do.
Going.
I don't know. So, right.
So we'll try a little bit of that whiskey for me while you're there, okay?
I will.
Okay. Scott.
Good morning, everyone. Scott McKay, Community Liaison for Circles of Care. We connect older adults with volunteers for periodic supports. We're making progress on a dementia-friendly community. We have Tracy Morgan from the Oregon Alzheimer's Association will be here July 11th at the Mid-Columbia Senior Center in the morning. That's a Thursday. And if you're interested, we don't have a time yet, but if you're interested in learning more about Dementia Friendly The Dalles, you can just email and we'll put you on our mailing list. So I'll put my email address in the chat. So if you want to be involved, you can definitely contact me and we'll get you on the list so you get all the announcements of what's happening. Thank you.
Great. That sounds awesome. So for the chamber, I went ahead and threw into the chat the parade entry. We've only sitting like at maybe 18 right now for the 4th of July. I am waiting on my final approval for a flyover of the jets right before the parade starts. As you can imagine, that goes through about 5 levels of federal government. We'll just emphasize the government. And so I'm waiting for that final approval to see if we're put on the map for that piece of it. Next Tuesday, I'm looking for the date of what next Tuesday is, but that is our morning buzz. It'll be at Tonkin Motors, Subaru, and so that will be there. It starts at 7:30 and goes till 8:30, a great way to network. And so that will be happening. And we have a couple other things and they're all on the community calendar. I do want to, before we start on this, make everybody aware so you can help spread the word. We sent out an email. We're sending out one this morning. There is so many events the 21st through the 23rd this coming weekend. There's at least 8 big ones besides the Ted Walker Memorial Swim Meet, which brings in between 600 to 700 people, families, 2 kids average, and then parents and then coaches and all of that. So that is happening this weekend. So if you see people that you know, especially the hospitality, the restaurants, we're trying to send a note out to them this morning, make sure that your staff is ready because there will be a lot of events happening this weekend, beginning with Friday night all the way through Sunday. So just be prepared. If you see a lot of cars and you're wondering what is going on, go to the community calendar on the chamber and you will see it's just stacked with all kinds of events this weekend. So we'll be sending out an email probably around by 10 at the latest that has a list of everything that we know of and have dug up so that you can spread the word. There should be something for anyone and everyone going on this weekend. So we have that. So if you are, I got everybody. Dan, are you all ready to go?
I am, Lisa, finally. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry about the technical difficulties.
Nope. Let me go and get the share screen because I'm on my little computer this morning.
Uh-oh, okay.
Nope, you're fine. I need to make sure that I have all of the right things open on my computer. And
See, did you receive the link?
yeah, I got the link.
Good.
I just want to
Okay.
make sure that I'm not sharing all the stuff you guys don't need to see on my computer.
Oh,
Yeah, no, you don't need to see everything. All right, share screen. And we're going to do this and do this. All right, you guys see it okay?
it's coming through.
Okay,
Coming through
great.
on my phone. I'm hoping the rest of the folks can see it. So first off, okay, cool. So we're going to talk a little bit about the history of urban renewal and then current status. It's really an update on urban renewal. But first off, I wanted to start with this interactive map. And Lisa, the special projects coordinator that we have been sharing with you, the chamber, Ann Moorhead, she is one highly talented individual. And I just wanted to start off by really giving Ann credit for this map. So this is a interactive map of the various urban renewal projects that have been completed, several underway, one or two that are proposed in our district, and then several that were abandoned through the years. And if you click on any one of these little icons, you will see detail. Most of the time, you'll see a photo. There you go. It looks like it's working. And this is still kind of a draft. We're circulating it to the board. We haven't posted it to the website yet, but I think if you wouldn't mind putting the link in the chat, and
Okay.
people or anybody on this call, welcome to take a look at this later on. If you see any mistakes, I'll give people a couple more weeks or so, and then we'll go live with this. We've gone over it many times, but I just want to be certain. We are probably missing a couple. I don't know that I have the chamber on here yet, Lisa. We did. I was going through the
yeah.
records, and yeah, is it on there? We'll see.
Just a second.
We did some facade work for the chamber a number of years ago, and I found a record of that. So I don't know that we have that one posted yet. But let's talk a little bit about. Yeah, we'll track it down because I would like to have that one noted. What you see is kind of a visual representation of the history of urban renewal. And the reason being, you look at those black dots in the upper left-hand corner of the map. When the Urban Renewal District was established in 1990, the district took in western the Dalles. And there was an emphasis on infrastructure project, public infrastructure. Through the history of the agency, that focus has kind of shifted. Many urban renewal agencies do nothing but public infrastructure. They don't do private investment. This one, and some do private investment. It's okay to do both. Right now, we're focusing on private investment, but the initial focus was public infrastructure, particularly on the west side, but also downtown. So 1990, the agency established. There was a bond that was encumbered, and then Measure 5 came along. Totally blew the economics of the agency out of the water. The bond was defeased, turned back in, and it took the better part of 10 years for the agency to redraw its lines, start a new bond, develop tax increment financing, and a real brief definition on TIF. You freeze the tax base at a certain level in a district, and then any increase in tax valuation, it's not a new tax, but any increase in tax valuation, those revenues are dedicated to urban renewal projects. And so the base is frozen. And so what we've seen here is a frozen base since 1990. So obviously there's a lot of pent up TIF, and those revenues will go to the districts when to the tax districts when the district terminates, scheduled for 2029. But anyway, so 1990, Measure 5 comes along. About 10 years for the agency to redraw its boundaries, and one of those redraws was to drop all of former school District 9. Any territory that was in District 9 went out of the district. This was a result of a mediated agreement. There was an attempt to actually disband the agency entirely, and so part of the agreement was, okay, we're going to drop the western part of this. Response also to Measure 5. There was a discrepancy in the way taxes were collected between the two school districts that created a real problem for taxpayers and tax districts out in the former District 9. So district now focused on the core of downtown, and we should have to really draw the district boundaries on this map. I think that'd be a good addition. Extends a little bit out along West 6th Street, not very far, stopping short of Fred Meyer and Cherry Heights. Most of the district is downtown the Dalles. So through the years, we've accomplished some fairly significant projects. And I wish I could control my own cursor here, but Lisa, if you could focus in on the downtown core on this map. And you'll see the Maritime Terminal and the Union Street undercrossing are both a couple of blue dots. And again, all of these blue dots are projects that have been completed. Public projects, private projects. It doesn't mean that urban renewal did all of it. Certainly, in the case of the Sunshine Mill roundabout, the Union Street undercrossing, the cruise ship dock, several others, it's a mix of local, state, federal funding, and urban renewal will be able to make up kind of that final gap, and sometimes take on the preponderance of the cost. There's the roundabout. The Sunshine Mill itself was an urban renewal loan that made that project possible. So I think it's like 72 projects in all, almost all of which have been completed. If you go to a big one that's pending right now, East 3rd, the former Griffith Motors across from Ace Hardware. That, of course, is Basalt Commons, and we're getting closer on that one. That's about, there you go, just over $1 million urban renewal investment dedicated to that project. Part of that is what we call a development funding agreement. So that's an outright grant to the developer. Part of it also is payment for system development charges. So that's not funding that goes to the developer. It's funding that goes to the city and the Parks District to compensate for system development charges. So that's a big investment. It's pending, but it's going through the land use review process right now. So I think we're getting a lot closer to seeing groundbreaking on that project, possibly as early as this year. So keep posted on that one. So where are we now with urban renewal? I mentioned that the agency, that the district rather, terminates in 2029. That is when we reach maximum indebtedness. And that's a very interesting term, because maximum indebtedness to me means bank debt. Okay, I'm going to borrow $30,000 and buy a car. That's debt. Maximum debt is not necessarily the same thing. It's the amount of debt, and another term I think would be spending authority, authorized to the agency over the entire history of the agency. So there have been at least 2 bond measures, I think 3, possibly through the history of the agency, including the one that was defeased immediately back in 1990, 1991. The cumulative total of all of those bond measures, the total spending authorized to the agency is to about $29 million. We have expended through the years, all but $5.7 million of that as of last summer. And I'll go back a little bit on the definition. Formal debt, I take out a car loan. Contract debt. Contract debt is what we're dealing with. And it's not necessarily new debt. It's not necessarily old debt. It's also certain revenues coming in, including tax increment financing. Those revenues are count against that maximum indebtedness, even though it is not what you and I think of as real debt. So that's an interesting definition. It seems like it's kind of in the weeds, but it might be important because it could be one way we might be able to confront a certain challenge we have right now. So I mentioned $5.7 million as of last summer is the remaining maximum, the gap on the maximum indebtedness. That's the remaining capacity we have basically to invest in urban renewal. That was as of last summer, specifically June 30th, before Basalt Commons was approved. So now we start, and a number of other projects. We've funded several different, and are funding several different local projects. The Foley, for instance, we helped repair the pillar on the Foley on 4th. 315 Federal, the former Chronicle building that's being converted into a grocery store, and several other businesses there. We've helped with that one, $50,000 for a commercial hood there. The Mint, $50,000 for a commercial kitchen at the Mint. And Tim was making good progress on that one. We need to invest more. There are several projects downtown, but those and several others over the past 6 months have whittled away at that 5.7. We're down to about 1.9 to $2.2 million in spending authority for the agency. And the challenge is First Street. So that is a project. I think we have it highlighted on the map. Yeah, in green on First Street. First Street is a very interesting situation. This is a 19th century street. There is a water line in First Street that was constructed in 1874, and it is still carrying water under First Street. It's a little bit substandard, shall we say. If you go and walk along the sidewalk of First Street between Union and Washington, adjacent to the Baldwin Saloon, and by the way, that is under new ownership, I understand, you will see that that sidewalk is basically perched on concrete pillars, steel reinforced concrete pillars. It's out there in midair on these pillars. And if you look under the sidewalk, which is very easy to see because there's a big, huge gap there that's about 10 feet tall, and look at the basalt that's holding up First Street, you'll notice that it's dry set rock. There's no mortar. Looks like something I'd do on a weekend if I had a whole lot of weekends to put that much rock down. It's just gravity that's holding that thing. And remember, you got a water line going through there. That needs to be reconstructed, especially those first 2 blocks. Really improvements going all the way to Laughlin on that one. Total price tag about $6 to $7 million right now. We might be able to whittle it down to 5.2 if we value engineer the heck out of it and not do a lot of things that were originally envisioned. The idea on First Street was what you see now on Second Street, that was an urban renewal project in 2002. Tree plantings, brick inlay, things that look nice above the street, as well as infrastructure below the street that's really vital for essential services. So we're in the process now of sadly whittling away at the First Street project until we get something that might come within remaining budget. Obviously, urban renewal can't do it alone. We need to have a city contribution. Urban renewal is a separate entity from the city. We operate under the umbrella of the city, but it's a separate agency. So they're different funding streams. Public works funding is not the same as urban renewal funding. The other challenge, though, is a number of downtown projects that we would love to get done as well. Sigmund's, for instance, has a $200,000 Main Street grant to develop some apartments, new residential in the upstairs of the Sigmund's building. Michael Leash has been working on this, and Claudia for a number of years. They need some urban renewal funding. Specifically, I think the request is 240,000 to make that happen, in addition to their own private investment, which is very significant. Todd Carpenter, and for the record, Urban Renewal's total investment in the last stop in the recreation, 15,000 over the years. There was an insurance settlement because of a roof collapse that was not Todd's, that was a surprise for Todd, and it was not his responsibility, but he ended up getting stuck with the cleanup anyway. You'll hear things about the recreation that, oh, we've given Todd a ton of money. Not true. 15,000, and he's purchased 2 of the properties from Urban Renewal. He's about to purchase the 3rd. That's another 25,000 coming back to the agency. So that's a sensitive point, and I just wanted to be sure that if you hear anything different, you know, there's the other side of the story. Anyhow, we could definitely put more investment in there and complete the facades of that building. It would beautify downtown. I've been working with Canton Walk and Bill Dick, his family owns the Meyer building, facade restoration there and along those kind of clamshell awnings that go down to Federal Street from Canton Walk. Kelly Ma owns those, and she would love to do facade restoration there. All of those things stack up. You put those projects, additional funding for the Mint, you're coming up with about $2.5 million worth of projects. Well, that's tough right now. There might be a way to do it. We're exploring some things. It's way early. But right now, that's the situation we're in. And I wish I could end this on a better note. And stay tuned. We might know more in a few months, and maybe I'll have a better note to talk about. First Street, we might have to postpone it. Incentive program, we might have to drop some of these things. Maybe we'll be able to do both. It depends upon some discussions that are underway right now between the agency and the city, especially revolving around First Street. But in the long term, I mentioned the district expires in 2029. And on how we're doing on time, I want to leave some time for questions. The agency does not necessarily expire along with the district. The agency could continue basically as a placeholder. We could create a new district. You can create a district on the footprint of the current one. You could create a new district on the west side of the Dalles or someplace else. The agency, I think, through the years, looking at that map, you can see that the successes have far outweighed the failures, and there have certainly been some failures. There have been some crazy decisions made through the years. And I won't call it a crazy decision. It seemed like a good idea at the time. I was actually on council at the time. Tony's building acquisition. That turned out to be not such a good idea. The idea was to take the former Tony's Town and Country, which is now a blank lot on 2nd and Federal, redevelop that building. Well, we ran into something called BOLI, the federal wage requirements that are involved when you have federal dollars. That kind of blew apart the business plan on that one, as I understand. That was all the complications occurred after I came on council, after I left council rather. But through the years, we tried one thing after another with Tony's, and nothing seemed to pan out. So last year, the agency agreed, let's just take the building down and make a new, who knows what it might be, spot for development there. So that's what you see now. We conducted a survey, public survey, that ended on just this last Monday, June 10th. And we received 248 responses to that. The preponderance of those responses talk about public green space, keeping it open space, and also residential development and also commercial. So there are really 3 different areas, but most of the responses went towards some sort of open park space. Now, Federal Street is right next to that. And one of the urban renewal projects we'd still like to do somehow is to take that 1 block segment of Federal Street between 2nd and 1st and turn that into an open space, a pedestrian area, some tree plantings, water feature, things like that. It's right next to Tony's. Maybe there's a way to bring those together in some way. At the meeting this past Tuesday evening, we talked about developing some sort of a request for expressions of interest. We've brought this idea up earlier, wanted to wait for survey results. Now with those survey results, we can take some of those ideas and build them into a formal request for expressions of interest from the development world. That's less demanding on potential developers than a request for proposals. RFP entails proposals that involve quite a bit of expense on the developer's part, engineering, architectural studies, things of that nature. Expressions of interest is just, okay, we want some cool ideas for this project. Here's the feedback we have from the public. Now take that feedback with some guidance from the agency and tell us what might be possible there. Public meeting, so I'm not going into anything confidential on this one, but one idea that the Bancos with Neon Sign Museum, which was another urban renewal project, by the way, came forward was putting the Jansen Beach Carousel on the Tony site. That's a maybe. That's a maybe. Right now, the carousel is scheduled for the parking lot next to the former Elks Lodge there on 3rd. But you know, that's the type of idea that we're looking for on this next step for the Tonys. At the end of the day, does Tony stay public property or does it go to a private development? Or is Federal Street public and Tony's goes to private development, maybe with a public aspect to it? Those are all things that we can talk about. So urban renewal through the history, a mixture of small projects, facades, things like that, and some really big projects that would not have happened otherwise. The Sunshine Mill roundabout, Sunshine Mill itself, the 2nd Street undercrossing, the cruise ship dock. Look at that little purple dot along the riverside on the north side of I-84. There you go, Lisa. We call that Rat Island. It is just an undeveloped mess. Wouldn't it be cool to have a Riverside Plaza there? No, there's dreaming. That's highly speculative. But that's the type of stuff that we might be able to pull off. Who knows? Way, way down the road. Not right now. Anyway, I think I've talked enough. Questions?
I don't have any questions yet.
I think I've stunned them into silence.
So,
Let's see.
Dan,
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead, Scott.
Scott.
hey, what's the status of the Basalt Commons? Is that a real possibility? Or I know there's been dreams downtown that never materialized, but where's the status of the Basalt Commons? It seems like quite an enormous project.
It's a big project. It's 108 residential units. In fact, I think that Mary Hanlon, the developer, may have increased that. I think it might be 100 and, well, I know it's 108 minimum. There might be a few more than that now. Scott, it's more than a real possibility. They are in the land use phase right now for land use approval. The funding, I think the funding is secure, or Mary would not be taking that step. I've been in touch with her development consultant, and one of the things that the Salt Commons will qualify for is downtown vertical housing tax incentive. That's another district entirely. Some of you may remember Mary Merrill, the SBDC director. She got that started. She encouraged Nolan to adopt that through the city. This will be the first big project that would benefit from that one. Is it a possibility? It's a probability. The only thing that we have to do right now, we need to go through any appeals process for it, and I think you always have kind of a NIMBY factor involved on a project of this scale. There have been concerns about traffic capacity. We're about parking capacity, so we are conducting parking studies on that one. That I don't think we have a shortage of parking. in the Dalles, and there is on-site parking that would alleviate that in any case with Basalt Commons. So again, it's it's beyond the urban renewal stage now, and it's into the final run on the land use side. If we conclude any appeals that come forward, the developer is confident enough to be expending the dollars required for land use review. And again, that's not something that she would be doing if she didn't have her funding together. I know that she needs a ground floor commercial tenant, and I'm aware of discussions that seem to address that concern. It's not what was in mind originally, but there are some other things coming together that sound like it would address that. I can't go too much further into it than that, but I would definitely not term it a possibility. I'd put it in the probability category. So let's see if we have groundbreaking inside of 6 months. I wouldn't be surprised. Other questions?
The concern I've heard was the parking, and you said there will be on-site parking
Yeah.
for the
Yep.
There's,
commons.
On-site.
so Scott, there's going to be so many units provided on the onsite. That's not going to be a parking spot for every unit in that
Correct.
apartment complex, but there is parking all the way around. And I know personally that Mary has in her other development, I believe it's Canby, isn't that where it's at, Dan? Yeah,
That's right.
She actually partnered with the surrounding businesses because there was businesses that were open from 8 to 5 but closed afterwards. And she went to them and say, look, can I rent these spaces from you from 6 p.m. to such and such a.m.? And so she did that. So not only did she partner, but they actually received revenue for those parking spots. And then she polices it with her own people. She has a security company. If somebody's parked in a spot where they're not supposed to be, then they get towed. And so she's done that with Canby. And so I know that she's reached out to a few of the business owners, and it's hard. We all have that not in my backyard. But she's also looking at First Street. There's a ton of parking down there and it's underutilized, just like we have the Commodore. Those parkings are down there behind Last Stop between Second and First. So there is parking. It's just that people have a tendency to not want to walk a block. And so then there's no parking according to them. And to be honest, when you go to a bigger community that has really developed their downtown, you're going to walk 3 to 4 blocks. I don't plan on anything close to my appointment to arrive in Portland. I know I've got to walk at least 5 to 6 blocks there from parking to my appointment. So it's one of those things we just have to shift our thinking. But it's a beautiful drawing and rendering that she did just as just a thought process. It's not the final one, but it's just the thought process, a concept of what could be here. And so I know she's really trying. She's made this investment. She's not going to just sit there and let it just be an undeveloped investment. So she's very serious about hers. She has multiple investments around the US. And she's done this a few times. This is not her first gig. So I've gotten to know, she came into my office one of the very first days before she started putting her feet into this. And we talked all the different economy and everything like that. So she is a serious doer homework, and her development company is too. I can't recommend them enough as far as working with them and the stability of their company. So it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when everything aligns and doing that. So.
Okay, another question. Speaking about parking, what's the plan? Sometimes I don't keep up on the news. What's the plan for the vacant lot that's east of Ace Hardware? That's going to be public parking, or?
That will be public parking. Thank you, Scott. There is a little bit of a tie there with Basalt Commons. So the urban renewal plan as of 2009, which we're updating right now, one of the priority projects on that was the development of surface parking lots. Parking lot near St. Peter's Landmark, that's urban renewal, that's public parking. They want on the other side of the Sunshine Mill roundabout, so it's quite a ways out on the east side. That's public parking. This is one, we needed one on the east side closer to downtown. So that lot that you're talking about by Sawyer's, the city and urban renewal partnered on that. The city, I think the city purchased it and urban renewal is improving it, or the other way around. It's about $450,000 to $500,000 a piece, total investment of about $1 million. I mentioned the connection to Basalt Commons. We're not developing it right now because we might use it as a laydown yard for Basalt Commons construction. And, you know, we'd obviously have to do some changes in traffic flow during the construction period, but Mary is going to need some place for the construction materials and some logistical support there, maybe some equipment storage, things of that nature. So rather than pave it right now and then tear it up through if we need to use it as such, leaving it unpaid for now, and when Basalt Commons is completed, then we'll go in and do all the work that needs to pave it, line it, everything else, and that'll be public parking. We met with Chris Sukin and with David Benko about the old Griffith Motors signage that's up there, Thomas Motors signage that's still placed. You can still control that digital reader board there. We still have the controls for that. So where are we we don't want to get rid of that vintage neon sign, obviously. It may go toward the back of the lot. We might say public parking here or something like that. We don't know, but we're not going to trash that. We'll do something with that when that becomes a public parking lot.
Also, could you add some spots in that for those gigantic pickup trucks? So when I drive down the street, I don't have to go into the other lane to pass them, or I can see what's coming at the intersections. Some of those
Scott, that is an excellent question for the city, and I would be happy to pass that along to Matthew Cleats and the Traffic Safety Committee.
Yeah, well, I know that angled parking is a requirement in order to get more parking, so I just accept it, but you know, but sometimes it can be an inconvenience.
I've seen those parking stalls that says that your car needs to fit within these lines, so we might need to do a little bit more of that. I don't know why people need to have a pickup that's the size of a World War II Sherman tank, but oh well.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Happy to field other questions. Good conversation. And Lisa, thank you for the background with Mary. Mary has invested in the Dalles. She lives here. She moved here a number of years ago. Quite a few years ago, David Griffith and I and a few others went down to the Canby project and walked through that building while it was in drywall stage, just to check it out a little bit. Okay, who is this Mary Hanlon? Well, we saw what she's doing there, and we were there again for the ribbon cutting for that building when Mary spoke to a big gathering of public officials there, city officials, and downtown Portland. She's done stuff downtown Portland.
Yep.
Many other locations. And
she's worked with Restore Oregon on a big project too, and brought a building back historically so that it could be used. And so
exactly,
she has a heart for preserving history, but also providing options in your small areas that could help and bring that economical growth into your different areas that you need it. And so, you know, I love the whole concept with that apartment because just 2 blocks down is now going to be a grocery store. And so they'll have access to grocery stores. The link is stopping in the downtown. So they'll be able to have transportation to other places around town without a vehicle. And Mary's working on incentives so that they do that. And then she's also trying to work with the businesses in the downtown so that when a new tenant comes in, they have coupons and stuff for the businesses around so they get familiar. So her and I've talked about that. It's thrown around. We haven't confirmed anything because we want the project to be done first. But she's done some amazing projects all over the state and the US. So it's fascinating to listen to her stories and what she's done, but she does have a heart for preservation, but also a heart to really add to and bolster your economy wherever she's at. So I've had lots of conversations with her. I enjoy every one of them just because I learned so much more, and getting the insight of what all of those different things and the process it takes to make those things happen. So it doesn't just a developer approve, finance, and go. So it's very interesting to listen to that whole process. But I got to be there. She was awarded by Restore Oregon for her project that she had done last year. So beautiful, beautiful buildings and all of that. So I'm excited to see what they do with this space.
One other big aspect of this, the whole idea of 24/7 downtown residency. When we, you look at empty storefronts, and we still have a few of those to fill up, more than I like. Those retail businesses need to have people walking by. They need to have people all hours of the day. And the more people we can have living downtown, and look at the housing crisis that we have, the housing affordability crisis, things like Mary's project will help with that. So will other downtown residential. Sigmund's, the Last Stop, the Legion Hall, maybe. They're looking at office space as well. But the more that we can do downtown, including Basalt Commons, the more we have permanent downtown residency, and that lends vibrancy, and that helps retail development. So it's all different components of the same thing. But no, I can't say enough good things about Mary. She volunteered. She was very helpful in the skill center and residential hall projects on the college campus, just lending her expertise and her guidance. She suggested the former Chenoweth Middle School for the child care project that we continue to make progress on. That's an expensive project, but it's out there still. So a lot of different things there. Other questions? Looks like we got about 10 minutes.
I don't have any.
All right.
Anybody else have any other questions, concerns?
Take a look at the map,
Jump,
folks.
Dan.
You've got the link.
Yes, you guys have the link in the meeting chat. And then be sure to watch the community calendar for this weekend and for next week, as there is a lot going on. Morning buzz should be a good one. So put that on your calendar, 7:30 to 8:30 on Tuesday morning of next week at Tonkin. And then if there's any other questions for the chamber, just shoot us an email and we'll get you answered. But otherwise, Dan, I thank you so much for being here
Thank
this
you,
morning.
Dan.
And I love that map. I'll tell Anne when I see her at the office. She did a great job. Now I know what
Please do.
I know what I can maybe get out of her before she's finally done, maybe for the chamber. Since now she's had lots of practice. And but everyone have a fantastic day. So remember to support local. Our businesses are still in a point they really, really, really need our support. Tourism has sort of got there, but it is being shared with so many other communities who also need it. So the more we can help support local or bring friends and make that awareness, the better off our businesses are. So with that, you all have a fantastic day, and I will see you guys next week.
Thanks,
Thank you.